And here we are talking about Runaway Horses.
Right.
1989. Now, I think when we talked about Heaven on Earth, you already said lightning striking twice. Very often, the next album after an enormous record is a difficult journey for an artist. But from the face of it and from the hits of this record, that wouldn't seem to be the case. Tell me, was it hard to follow up Heaven?
It was hard. Well, I think, you know, we were overthinking it. Well, maybe not, because it did so well. If it was a failure, I would have thought we were overthinking it too much. But, I mean, in my experience with the Go-Go's, it's the sophomore jinx, you know, and you know, you have all this time to come up with the material for a first album, which actually was my second album with Heaven. But, you know, you have to, even though you don't want to put pressure on yourself to live up to that and to do even better, you do, because that's just like normal human nature to be like that.
And you felt you knew what the wave was. You knew how high that wave you were on if you were surfing on that first wave. You don't want to go any further down, do you, really?
You don't want to go further down, but normally you do on the second one.
Yeah. This, of course, is still Knowles and Shipley making a massive contribution in songwriting, and Rick, of course, still producing. That was a winning team that you weren't going to break at this point.
No, I mean, it's, you know, they were, I mean, they're amazing songs on that. I mean, actually, out of all my solo albums, I would say Runaway Horses is up there. You know, and any of my albums, actually. But they wrote amazing songs. I mean, La Luna is one of my, you know, all-time favorites in my career. That's
a big European hit, and it's not actually one that always springs to mind, but it's a really beautiful song.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful song.
This album also has some amazing people on it, and really quite a range of amazing people. George Harrison, you know, he didn't exactly put himself out for sessions. I understand he wanted to do this for you because he loved your voice.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Bizarre. I mean, it was funny because at the time I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, it's cool. And then I just watched the George Harrison documentary, the Scorsese documentary, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he did that. And I mean, you know, what can I say? Yeah, it was an amazing experience. And at the time, of course, I appreciate it, but in retrospect, it's just, you know, one of the more amazing experiences in my career.
He's done a couple of the songs on this record, Deep Deep Ocean and Leave a Light On. What does it do to a song, which is already a great song, when you put somebody like that on a record?
Well, in the case of Leave a Light On, it just took it to a different level. I mean, because his guitar playing is so distinctive, you know, that you know, it's just makes it that much better.
And you said that of your records, this feels like one of your favourites. Do you mean as an album?
As an album.
Is it because it feels like a complete album to you? What is the difference between this and its predecessor for you?
I think that as far as the tracks on there, I think it's much more European sounding and not so American sounding, which I do prefer more European pop. I mean, actually, and on that, I mean, there's something that's special, I mean, and kind of dramatic about that album. And one of my favorite tracks ever that I've done in my entire career, Summer Rain, is on there, which was actually Maria Vidal and Robbie Seidman. And that's an amazing song for me to do live, and I love that song. I love it.
She of body rock fame, that was the solo hit she had, but she's a great writer, and she's featured on more than one song for you in your repertoire. But there's something soaring and anthemic about that song, when I can understand what you mean when you say it's a great live favourite.
Well, it's fun, especially doing that song in Australia, because there's people to have special choreography for that. You know, in certain countries.
Okay.
They have a whole thing that they do, which is really amusing. But I love the song. I love the arrangement. I love the strings. It's very dramatic, and yeah, it's one of my favorites.
When you say special choreography, this is the audience participation.
Audience, correct. Not my choreography.
So how does that come about? What is it that, you know, when a song takes on a life of its own, and can you describe what that special choreography is?
No, I can't describe it because I've only seen it a few times. But it's like, especially in Singapore, they have all these dance moves that go along with it.
That's
Go
fantastic.
figure. I mean, it is amazing. It's really funny to watch, and you know, when you do that song like in Australia, and the first couple bars, and people go, ah, they just freak out, you know. And it's one of those. It's a great song live too.
Runaway Horses, the title song, is another anthemic tune
Right.
on this. A favourite?
That is one of my favorites, but it was funny because at that time we were doing it. It actually had a different melody that was too similar to a melody of a song that Cher had out at the time, and I remember there was like, you know, Rick and Ellen were like racking their brains trying to fix it. It was all coincidence. So they're, you know, trying to work to fix that melody to make it different, which they did. I love that song. It's very romantic. I think it kind of encapsulates the whole feel of that album, actually.
Have you ever owned a horse?
Yeah, I did actually. I grew up with horses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that must be part of. They are beautiful creatures, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're kind of scary, but they're beautiful.
Yeah. To go back to something you said there about you preferring a kind of European, or it feeling better for you, the kind of European music sensibility, and going back to the Go-Go's and the kind of punk sensibility there and where you came from, you seem to have been quite comfortable in the UK, been coming to the UK for many years.
Yes.
Have you found the UK a musical influence on you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, even just growing up and you know, the Beatles. I mean, let's start with the Beatles and the Stones and I mean, those bands along with the Beach Boys were, you know, part of my formative years. And then in 75, 76, you know, I used to go to the record store and buy NME and Melody Maker and you know, who's this band, the Sex Pistols. So I mean, I you know, I loved punk rock and you know, thank God for that scene because the Go-Go's never would have existed if it wasn't for that. So and you know, it's funny. I still work a lot with the Go-Go's and then I'll go from a Go-Go show to one of my shows and it's kind of schizophrenic, but they both feel equally as comfortable.
Do you have the same fans at both the Go-Go shows and the Belinda Carlisle shows?
I'd say pretty similar, but I'd say that the Go-Go shows definitely have more of a freak factor.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, a lot of people who've never grown up and don't want to grow up.
No. We have vampire clubs and all sorts of weird, you know, bizarre people showing up to Go-Go shows, but it's great. We love it.
Also on this record, Runaway Horses, there's a contribution by one of the great British arrangers, Paul Buckmaster, who, of course, you know, was very significant in his work on Bowie's Space Oddity and with Elton John and many, many more. I mean, I'm guessing that a lot of the sort of the strings and stuff and that arrangement was done when you weren't required for your vocal performances.
I wasn't required, but I remember hearing that string arrangement for the first time and freaking out. I think that string arrangement makes that song, actually.
Yeah.
It's so amazing and so beautiful.
Bryan Adams is on this record.
Yes, he is.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
You did collect a bunch of amazing people on this, didn't you?
I've worked with some amazing people that aren't even on those albums, like Lindsey Buckingham on my very first album. God, I mean, I can't even, I mean, I've worked with like Evan Dando, you know, I mean, amazing people.
And people like Bryan Adams, who obviously was already quite a big star at that point.
Right.
Wanted to work with you because he loved what you do?
Yeah, I've you know, I think he's an amazing songwriter, and I've been to his shows through the years, and he, you know, liked my music, and we sat next to each other on a plane once on a flight, and got along well, and yeah, and it sounded like he'd be perfect on that song. I wanted to do a duet, and so that made sense for that song.
On Whatever It Takes.
Mm-hmm.
There's also your co-write with your old friend Charlotte Caffey on this record.
Right.
This is Shades of Michelangelo.
Right.
This is one of your songs that made the cut then.
One of my songs, yeah.
It's a great song.
Yeah, you know, it's weird. Like, I can't really be objective with most of the songs that I write, but It was inspired by, like, I was going to Europe quite a bit, and I know I had been spending a lot of time in France with my husband, and it was sort of inspired by the trips we were making at that time.
Cultural.
Very cultural.
Cultural inspiration then.
Very.
That's, I mean, and that's quite a long way from the kind of California scene that you grew up in, isn't it?
Well, definitely, definitely. But I mean, in the same way, though. I mean, I grew up with a certain type of pop radio, California pop, which was even in the Go-Go song. I mean, the Go-Go's come from the punk scene, but we were basically a band like the Buzzcocks. We were a pop band with punk overtones. So I've always been really, whatever I've done, it's been really true to who I am or where I'm at. And even switching gears from the Go-Go's to like Runaway Horses, I mean, that is really me too. The Go-Go's are me, but so is Runaway Horses. So, you know, I've because music's been a big part of my life since, you know, for the past 45 years, of course I'm going to have, you know, different tastes and different influences. And, you know, I think when people say, oh, well, you know, you're in a punk band, you know, how can you go from doing that to Heaven on Earth? It's like easy, because I grew up with songs that were similar to on the Heaven on Earth or Runaway Horses album.
Let's be honest, the Go-Go's is very melodic as well. You know,
the Go-Go's were a pop band.
Yeah, and you were trailblazers, and you know we're very aware of Go-Go's in this country, but you had amazing success in the States.
Yeah, and not much outside the States, but the Go-Go's, and still they're bigger than ever. You know, go figure. I think I know why. It's because it's always been really authentic, and we've always never been that serious. And this, the live show is amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it still works. I mean, I always say, okay, I'll give it, you know, I'm 50, it's over. I'm going to be 55 in August, and I'm still having a great time. We all have a great time, and it's not gross yet.
Have you gone past the time when you feel you have to, just for your peace of mind, call them the farewell tour?
I think that there's going to be a certain point, because I want to have a little bit of dignity, you know, left.
Plenty of time yet, though. Let's talk about the cover and the imagery for this album. Could you talk me through a little bit about that and your thinking on it?
Well, that album cover was shot by Herb Ritz, who I've always wanted to work with, and I got really lucky. I've worked with some amazing photographers through the years, and he's right up there.
Final question, just for now. Do you always have a song in your head every day? When you wake up, do you have a song in your head?
Yes.
And is it ever one of yours?
No, it's never one of mine.
What is it?
It varies. When you really want to know, it's Hamilton, Joe, Frank, and Reynolds. Remember them?
Oh, yes.
A friend of mine sent me a CD, and it had "Don't Pull Your Love." It was just like, you know, it's like junior high school. It takes me right back. And I was singing it around the house, and my husband calls me and goes, "Don't ever sing that song again. I never want to hear it. I've been singing it all day." But he always picked the most annoying songs. I love that song. That song to me is not annoying, but it's annoying to a lot of people.